This is a podcast. You know how I know it's a podcast?
Because of the way it is.
Nope, because of the cameras.
Yep, that'll do it.
And the mics.
True. Welcome to the Wausau PD Podcast. I'm Lieutenant Nate Stetzer, and
I'm School Resource Officer Nick Stetzer.
And
I mean, this is the most important. This is timber.
True.
But you should know that.
I do know that.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're the youngest brother.
Yeah, by 2 minutes. Doesn't really count for much, though.
Yeah.
So we, previous to setting all this up, we talked about, we both wrestled in high school and college. And Officer Stetzer here is bringing up a record that is non-existent. And he says that he can still beat me in wrestling. I don't think that's accurate.
I mean, I'm all about lifting people up, and we're in different weight classes now, though. So
yeah, I can't lie about that one. That's pretty accurate.
But I do hold the records of us wrestling together.
That's not true. That's not true. But so on a serious note,
yeah, what are we talking about here tonight?
So we're going to talk about some great stuff today. We're going to talk about the roast of Nick Stetzer, and we're going to bring up some childhood memories today.
I mean,
Silence.
Again, you're the younger twin. So, I mean, I would expect that you would know this, but Thanksgiving is over.
Yes, that is very well played.
No roasting turkeys.
No,
or anything like that.
We're not going to roast Nick Stetzer today. That might be a future video. Oops, don't play with the mic. That might be a future video, but what we're going to talk about today is our involvement in Special Olympics. So,
sweet.
How long have you been involved in Special Olympics?
I've been involved since 2009. So when I started as a community service officer here at the Wausau Police Department, we would have the torch run here before the final leg it used to be in Stevens Point. And that's kind of what really got me started, is officers being involved and saying, hey, come help out with traffic and stuff like that. And ever since 2009, been enjoying every minute that I get to spend with the athletes and help out and volunteer.
Nice.
How long have you been involved?
So you say 2009 is when you started. I think we should probably take a step back here, because I started in 2008. And I think the way this whole career thing went down for you is you were going to be a teacher, right?
I did want to be a teacher, yes,
Yeah.
when I was in college.
So I started my freshman year in college as a community service officer here at the Wausau Police Department. And I got to come home with all these cool things I did in the day. And Nick really saw how awesome it was to be a police officer, community service officer at the time. But you realize wow, that is a super cool job. And I want to be exactly like my twin brother, right?
Wrong. So I got to ask you, Nate.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in Special Olympics? And how long has it been since you've been involved in Special Olympics?
So I started here as a CSO in 2008, in the summer of 2008, and I got involved with Special Olympics that summer. So I was invited to come and help with traffic control and stuff like that at a torch run that was held here in Wausau, and I've been hooked ever since. So my duties that day were just traffic control and assist the runners from the 400 block, and at that time they ran about 5 miles to Cedar Creek. So my job was to turn on the lights and follow the crew down to Cedar Creek. And I thought it was awesome at that time because I didn't get to use the lights as a community service officer, but I got to use them that day, and it was really cool.
Ooh.
But that was not the reason why I was hooked. But so I started in 2008, and that was my first torch run, and I haven't looked back since. I've been involved with Special Olympics, doing numerous things like cop on a rooftop. Sounds like we might have a story for that later in the podcast. But the several polar plunges, a lot of torch runs.
Were you too chicken to plunge, or have you actually plunged before?
I did. I was too chicken to plunge once. Yeah, after a medical story, which we'll get to later in the podcast. But yeah, I couldn't jump that year. So
just to explain to our viewers, there's a couple different options you have for the polar plunge. Now, the polar plunge closest to us is Wisconsin Rapids, but you can raise money and raise funds for Special Olympics, or you can raise funds and take the plunge, right?
yes,
So for the people that don't know what that is, you jump into freezing cold water. It's like literally under 32 degrees, right?
well, I mean,
It's cold.
that would be freezing, and there is ice. So
Look at that. I got some education today. But they cut a hole in the ice, and you jump into the lake or the river. There's people there to make sure that everybody's safe, but it's a great way for people to raise funds for Special Olympics, right?
it's all for a great cause. Yeah.
And there's also like different things that you can do if you don't plunge. Like they have bands, they have different food and different venues that you can go to just hang out and watch people jump into freezing cold water.
Right. Matter of fact, I'm going to be jumping in Madison this year. I think it's February 15th in Madison, but it's going to be a great time. It's just like everything you explained, where there's going to be band and food and drinks, and it's just an all-around great family event, all for raising funds and awareness for Special Olympics Wisconsin.
Do agencies from all across the state of Wisconsin participate in Special Olympics?
Yeah, matter of fact, there's agencies that participate from all around Wisconsin, but then you look at the nation, there are agencies that host polar plunges all around the nation, as well as the world. So it's a great time, but there was one year that I didn't jump, but there's also several years where I was a super plunger, I think, which is what?
I mean, I've never been a super plunger, which is where you jump 5 times, correct? You raise a certain amount and then you jump 5 times.
Yes.
I would have to say that I'm too chicken to jump more than once.
That's true.
But I've done it numerous times, jumping into the cold water. It used to be at Sunnyvale here in Wausau, and it was a blast. I mean, you jump in the cold water, and then you run right up to the hot tub, and you sit in the hot tub for a little while.
True.
I thought it was a blast, and I'll continue to support the polar plunge. I think, I mean, just kind of mentioning with agencies from all across the state, all across the United States and the world supporting Special Olympics, some things that have been kind of really cool for me to see is I have family from California, and California Highway Patrol also participates in Special Olympics and their polar plunge. And it's like beautiful and sunny in California, and then they go into the ocean and then they come running back out. And I'm like, I think everybody has to experience it Wisconsin style. When there's snow on the ground, it's February, it's probably like negative 50 degrees outside. And hey, we're out there, we're jumping into cold water for a great cause.
True.
I mean, I would invite people from California agencies to come enjoy here in Wisconsin.
I feel like if this podcast made out there, that's a challenge. It's a challenge. So everybody,
Look at that.
Everybody there, like if you jump in doing the polar plunge in California, like we fully invite you to come jump in Wausau, Wisconsin.
Yep, we'll take care of you.
Yep.
Come here and jump in the cold river
Yes.
or lake
Yes.
or pool.
So polar plunge is a portion of what we've done for Special Olympics, but I will say that first torch run is really what did it for me. And that experience of seeing everyone that is just so happy. It's hard to explain the feeling and the emotions that you get when you participate in Special Olympics events. I don't know if you've had the same feeling, but I guess for me, one of the biggest things is that I go to work every day and we see people at the worst. You know, like we have contact with people when they're having a really bad day. And for me, participating in Special Olympics events has been the exact opposite, that just the sheer amount of joy and happiness within everybody's heart is amazing, and it's truly moving. I can honestly say that since 2008, since I've been participating, that I've never had a bad Special Olympics event, and everyone has always been so happy and smiling and joyful that it's truly moving. So in 2008, when we did that torch run, at that time, the opening ceremony was held in Stevens Point. So what was your first experience with that in Stevens Point?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, just to piggyback off that, is the amount of happiness that it brings to athletes and their families by us just being there. I don't know how you replace that feeling. When talking about the opening ceremonies, the thing that's really kind of hooked me in is that all the money raised for Special Olympics goes back to the athletes. It's not like it goes to other things, but it goes to like healthcare for the athletes. Mm-hmm. During the opening ceremonies, they stay in the dorms and they have different opportunities to see doctors and dentists and take care of the medical needs that maybe they wouldn't have at any other time. Mm-hmm. So the funds directly go to help take care of the athletes and make sure that they're safe. And then after the opening ceremony start, the gauntlet, they have officers just lined up, and the athletes come in, they get their agency called and their region, and the athletes come out, and they're just so happy to be there and be shown and be highlighted for the things that they've done and the competitions that they've had. And going through that gauntlet, giving everybody high fives, and they're so happy to see you and giving hugs. That's what really drew me in, is like, right. Wow, having just being an officer, having them there and showing support to them, you can't beat that. Mm-hmm. I think that, it brings a tear to my eye every time I look back and think about just all the athletes walking down the gauntlet and giving high fives and giving hugs. It's really special to them, and to me, being able to be a part of that is extra special for me.
Yeah. So let me paint a picture when you say they're walking down the gauntlet, that there is a huge arch that says Special Olympics, and all your athletes come through that arch, and there are officers that line both sides, and officers are in full uniform or they're in their work attire, and as that agency for Special Olympics is announced, or that region is announced, the athletes walk through this line of officers going through there. And like you said, it is high fives. As a matter of fact, I think my hand has never been so sore, because some of them are really good. I know that there's a couple people that they are like 7 feet tall, and I try to give them a high five, and I have to jump to give them a high five. But it's something that just adds to just the overall joy that takes place at that opening ceremony. So athletes get announced at this opening ceremony, which is the kickoff of the Summer Games. So it occurs in Whitewater now. However, it's the same as it was in Stevens Point. That joy and that happiness just never dissipates. It's an amazing experience. And if you've never had the opportunity to check it out, I would highly recommend it for either the Winter Games or the Summer Games, because it's an experience that you'll never forget and that you always want to participate in. If I remember correctly, you were a flag bearer several times too, right?
Yeah. So it was got to lead the region out through all those officers, and it's been an experience. Like I said, since 2009, having the impact on me, where the athletes are super excited and super happy and super joyful to be there, and having those friendships and those relationships ever since 2009. There's athletes that when I first started that are continuing to compete and continuing to support Special Olympics as well. That's a resource that they can use if they need anything. Right. They can always come to us and look for help, or if they just need somebody to talk to, something like that. Those relationships that we built through Special Olympics help not only us, but them as well.
Right. So speaking of relationships, I guess a quick story that I want to share with you, and I don't know if you know this or not, but when I was newly hired as an officer in 2012, I got the opportunity to do an interview with the news, and I had an athlete there with me. His name is Nate Schmidt, and I don't know if Nate knows this or not, so this might be a shock to him, but he changed my life with that interview. When I got the opportunity to meet Nate, the news was interviewing us, and they put the microphone in each one of our faces, which is nerve-wracking in itself, but he did awesome. And we did that interview together, and it's formed a friendship that it's crazy. I mean, I never thought that we would be where we're at today, just off of a simple news interview. But he's taught me so many different things and truly changed my life that it's been something that I will never forget. And that Special Olympics did that for me. And
I think it's just kind of ironic that you now have a microphone right in front of your face.
I didn't think about that, but there is a microphone.
Just throwing that out there.
Face.
And on another side note, I mean, Nate is an amazing bowler. Not this Nate. Nate Schmidt.
Yeah, not me.
Is an amazing bowler, and I think he's gotten numerous high scores, like probably 300.
Yeah,
a couple times probably, which you cannot do. Just throwing that out there.
No.
So if he wants to teach you how to bowl, I think you should take that opportunity.
Yeah, matter of fact, were you there when he
not
taught me what you do when you get a strike?
I don't remember.
So we bowled recently at Bowl at the Cops, and Nate Schmidt is very good at bowling, unlike myself. And I think I got like one strike in like 3 games. But he taught me that when you bowl a strike, you got to come back and yell, "Booyah." And I felt like every time he bowled, he yelled "Booyah." And I got to say "Booyah" once. So I'll probably conclude this podcast with saying "Booyah."
I thought you said you got a strike 3 times.
Yeah, it's kind of like
2 were lucky.
It's kind of like fishing, where I might have got 1, but I say I got 3.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So let's get back to.
So speaking of Bowl with the Cops, one, just throwing this out there, that I got a better score than you did most of the times, right?
Probably.
We bowled numerous games, and I think I outscored you.
I can either confirm or deny.
Great answer.
Yes.
But I mean that's another event that recently started that was really cool to see. So we had different regions there at Dale's Weston Lanes.
Yeah.
Just recently.
Yep.
What are some of the things that appeals to officers for both cops?
Mm-hmm. So again, it's another opportunity to see people in a different light, and we can be the voice for people who might not have it. I think we're probably the only profession that can do something like this with Special Olympics, because it aligns with our core values of the police department. We are the voice for people who might not have it, or the people that might get shut out because of some of the intellectual disabilities that they have. I find great joy in participating in these events, and I know we've discussed it quite a bit already, but for me, I get more out of participating in these events, and I know that the athletes are getting joy and are finding happiness in the ability to participate, but I also and probably would argue I get more out of it than what they do. And Bowl with the Cops is just one example of that. So we had traditionally done a glow with the cops, or it's sorry, I can't remember the run with the cops. We had used to do that, and it was just a struggle. And in the timeline that we did it, we just weren't getting the participation that we'd hoped for. So this past year we started Bowl with the Cops, and it was a great success. And I look forward to next year being able to raise more funds and more awareness for the athletes in Special Olympics.
Yeah, that was a great night. I mean, we had the therapy dogs there. We had a bunch of officers bowling.
Some of those officers were really good.
I think,
Not me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, part of our core value here at the police department is partnering with the community to enhance the quality of life, right? And having officers bowl with a specific community, I think opens eyes for officers too. Be like, yeah, like they're part of our community just as much as anybody else is, and doing something that you can enjoy outside of maybe just kicking butt and taking names, sitting in your squad car, helps out officers too. Like, so like you said, I know that Special Olympics has had a big impact, and maybe a bigger impact on you than it has on athletes. But I think a lot of officers could see that as well.
I agree.
And see that in a different light of it's not just everybody is doing bad things and going to jail. It's being there, being present, and doing things outside of the normal patrol can really help somebody and enhance a quality of life for that person. Just being there and bowling and having them see you in a different light can really help somebody else out.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So that kind of brings up a thought of mine of the law enforcement torch run. What do you know about the law enforcement torch run?
So I think that I know that having a run, I would be able to beat you in a race. That's what I know. And I know it's not a race, but I could beat you in a race.
I mean, I've been running quite a bit.
Well, that's good. What are you preparing for?
Well, we'll get to that later.
Oh, okay.
We can't let the surprise out of the box
Strap it
yet.
in.
First, I want to quiz you a little bit.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
Do
I get a prize?
We'll play for points here. You get 1 point if you get the answer right. Or you can have some candy. You totally missed.
That was a bad throw.
Timber's going to eat that later. That would not be good. Yeah. So anyways, back to the point here. Do you know when the first torch run occurred?
Pass.
Okay. Do you know where it occurred?
Pass.
So the first torch run occurred in 1981 in Wichita, Kansas. And it was a law enforcement agency that saw a need and wanted to bring awareness to Special Olympics. So they ran, I think it was 5 miles from their city hall or within their city, and ran the Flame of Hope, or the torch. And so we have done that, or law enforcement agencies around Wisconsin, around the nation, around the world have done that same thing. So I guess, have you ever had the opportunity to carry the Flame of Hope?
I have.
What did it feel like?
It's very impactful. I mean, knowing that throughout the whole state of Wisconsin, and I guess the United States as well, having that flame be lit and stay lit throughout the whole state, and then make it to the final leg. I mean, I think people can view that as, yeah, it's a flame, but the Flame of Hope, it shows light, and it continues to be an inspiration for officers and for athletes that'll always stay lit. Mm-hmm. And it will travel throughout the whole state, throughout the whole country. It'll always be a symbol of hope and encouragement to always do your best, to always live by the Special Olympics model, and to always be there for support for other people.
Mm-hmm. So there might be some people out there that are listening right now that have no idea what we're talking about or what the Flame of Hope is. So the Flame of Hope is a torch, or a miner's lamp, where the torch is lit and carried from city to city, agency to agency, around the state, to make it to the final leg, or the opening ceremony of the either winter or summer games that we've talked about previously. So I've also had that opportunity to carry the torch, and it's an amazing experience. You have an athlete there that's holding onto the torch with you, and it's just a moving experience. The amount of joy and inspiration that's put into that torch is truly amazing. So do you recall when the first time that you carried a torch was?
I don't. It's been a while.
Are you passing again? Well, you're like -3 points right now.
I just don't recall on that one.
Oh. So I will say that this past year, I got to carry the torch with an athlete named Annie Mulligan. And Annie carried that torch like a champ. And she is a champion And it was an amazing experience. And it's, again, something that I will never forget. We got to run through the arch and run through the stadium at Whitewater and light the cauldron. And though I did burn a little bit of my arm hair, yeah.
I mean, did you get the top of your head too? Because
Yeah.
you have no hair in there.
I did see a picture today, though. I had hair in 2012. That is a fact.
Huh.
Yeah, not very much of it, but I did.
Nice.
So going back, I think one of the coolest experiences about the law enforcement torch run is that you have law enforcement agencies that are participating literally around the world to carry this flame of hope to the final leg. And I think there's really unique opportunities that are involved in Special Olympics, and really what it is just a willingness to participate, whether it's raising funds, whether it's participating in an event, doing a polar plunge, showing up at Tip-A-Cop, cop on a rooftop. There's a whole bunch of opportunities to get involved. And I think we've had more fun with these events than anyone else. That's probably a very valid argument.
I mean, I would say one of the things that sticks out, I mean, cops on a rooftop is probably one of my favorite events to be at, because one, you get to kind of be like a firefighter, a little bit. I mean, I don't get to sleep as much as they do. But
so are you saying everybody wants to be a firefighter?
No, Wausau PD is hiring, so if people want to be a police officer, we encourage that. And then you can get involved in Special Olympics too. You can do that as a firefighter too, but it's not as cool.
True.
Be a police officer.
True.
But anyways, back to my point, Nate. I mean, you climb up on a ladder that the fire department provides. It's a safe ladder. And you get up there and have a couple athletes. And one of probably my favorite memories that I have on Cops on a Rooftop happened a couple years ago, where I believe you were up on the roof and I was down on the ground doing an interview.
Yep.
Or maybe you were on the ground as well.
I think I was on the ground. I think I was literally standing right behind you.
Yeah, and I was doing an interview with the news, and I had a retired therapy dog badge with me, and you started throwing donuts at me. And
white powdered donuts.
Only at Special Olympics I'll allow that to happen. But you were throwing donuts, and I believe you got me 9 times.
9, yep.
Yeah. So although, I mean, I was trying to multitask and do the interview that was live at the same time as I'm getting pelted with powdered donuts, Badge was loving it.
True. He ate a lot of donuts that day.
Yeah. But although we were being silly and, throwing donuts, no donuts went to waste because Badge enjoyed them.
True.
But that was probably a memory that the athletes will have for quite a while. I mean, just being ourselves and being kind of silly. I think, I'll never forget it, but I can pretty much bet that a lot of the athletes that were there that day probably won't forget it either.
You know what I remember about that day? Is that
throwing the donuts
the next interview that took place, I had to do the interview with the news. And you thought it would be fun to get even with me, and then you throw donuts at me while I was doing the interview. And I think you only hit me like once.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think your memory's mistaken.
But speaking of memories, so another memory that comes to mind from the torch run is during COVID, we had issues around the world, right? And Special Olympics didn't want to go away with the torch run. So Special Olympics offered a virtual torch run. I had a medical issue just prior to that, and that was the reason why I couldn't plunge. So I had to, what'd you call it? Be the chicken? Or the
your
chicken
too
plunge?
chicken to plunge.
Yeah, too chicken to plunge. There you go. And so I had it. I was going through cardiac rehab for my heart, and they started having me run on a treadmill. And this was right at the time where Special Olympics was discussing how they were going to do the torch run. And it was determined that they were going to do a virtual torch run. And I had determined that I was going to do a half marathon for the first time in my life on behalf of Special Olympics. And I think you can attest to this too. I was never really a runner. Like, we ran cross country in high school. I was horrible at it.
Yep, you're always behind me. Just
Matter of
throwing that
fact,
out there.
if Coach Olson is watching this, I have to admit here that when you said go out and run for an hour, I would go hide in the woods and sit for 45 minutes and then splash myself with water to make it look like I just went for a run for an hour, because I hated running. And so back to the point here is that it was a big deal for me to, number one, want to do a half marathon, but number two, that I was doing it on behalf of Special Olympics. And so I trained constantly, and I was running every single day. And the fact that I know that there was athletes there supporting me, and that every event I went to, that they had my back. And that's what kept me going. So I ended up doing my first half marathon, and I ran it on behalf of Special Olympics. It was amazing. I posted it everywhere I could. I let everybody know that I did it on behalf of Special Olympics. Well, I'm going to fast forward years. I still ran a little bit, but I never really thought that running would affect my life that much until I got the opportunity to participate in an international event. And I'm happy to announce that I'm going to be attending the Winter World Games in Turin, Italy in March.
That's awesome.
And what that means is that I'm going to be a torch runner, where I carry the torch or the flame of hope from city to city in Italy and carry it to the opening ceremony in Turin.
So what you're saying is that you're representing our state of Wisconsin with athletes in Italy.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So I mentioned Annie Mulligan before. Annie Mulligan is the athlete from Wisconsin that's going to be attending Italy with me. And it's been such an honor that I got selected to participate in this. And I don't think Special Olympics knows how much it means to me, because after I had my heart attack, I never really thought running would be a thing for me. Or I ran my half marathon and I was done. I did it. It was done and dusted. I'm done. I'm never doing that again. And now I have this opportunity to run the torch in different cities all over Italy. And it's moving. And I recently participated in a torch run in San Antonio several weeks ago, and I cried pretty much the majority of the run, because it was just the support and the love for Special Olympics was moving. You could literally see it with the amount of people that were lined up throughout the street. There were cowbells. I brought several of those home for my kids. That was probably a mistake. Now I have to go for a run just to avoid the headache, because I gave them the cowbells. However,
that was your own fault.
I know. Yeah, or it's the drum set that you gave them. I'm not really sure.
Hey,
but
that's what uncles are for.
That's true. So I've been preparing and running for Turin, and I'm excited that I get this opportunity, and I'm truly honored that I get this opportunity to run in Turin. I'll probably send several selfies from the ski resorts in Italy. So it's the Winter World Games, and Turin is a lot like Wisconsin. So it's going to be snowy, and it's right near the Italian Alps. So we're going to be running on hills, or some call them hills, some call them mountains. But it should be interesting. So I'm probably going to take a lot of selfies, and I don't know, I might send them to the police department, but you're probably going to get a lot of selfies from me while I'm in Turin.
Well, I think today, although people can't see it, it's snowing outside right now, and it would be a great day for you to go train outside. It's probably 18 degrees out. It's snowy. We just want to make sure that you're fully prepared for Italy. But we want to thank you, too, for representing the Wausau Police Department and representing the state of Wisconsin by going over to Italy and showing your support for Special Olympics and supporting all the athletes throughout the U.S. and the world. And I think it's extra special that you're able to do that and have that experience not only for yourself, but be there and be a light and be a flame and encouragement for athletes from all over the world. So kudos to you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Can people volunteer in Special Olympics? Like after hearing this podcast, it sounds really awesome. Are people able to volunteer here locally or even volunteer throughout the U.S.?
Yeah. So I'd recommend checking out the Special Olympics website. You can just literally Google Special Olympics, and there are numerous ways and opportunities to volunteer with Special Olympics, whether it's, again, donating funds or physically volunteering with Special Olympics. But there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved. And I would highly recommend checking it out. Like I said, it's an opportunity that once you participate in an event and you see the pure joy and the happiness that you put into somebody's life, you're never going to want to do anything else, and you're going to keep volunteering.
Agreed.
So one of the opportunities that I get while I'm in Turin is we're going to be doing a polar plunge. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be like Wisconsin. So there's going to be somebody or several people, I think, from California. So they're probably going to get the opportunity to jump in cold water.
Nice.
So that's going to be awesome. But I know our team, there's 80 law enforcement officers from around the world that are participating in the final leg in Turin, and they separate you out into teams. So I believe on my team, I'm team 6, and I have, I think, approximately 8 people on my team, and we're going to dress up as a super awesome costume. I think it's Minions. I don't want to, no spoiler alert there, but my costume is pretty awesome. They also double as PJs, so I'm probably going to wear Minion PJs in Italy. Nice. And then use it for the polar plunge.
Very cool. Are people able to watch? Is there anything on Special Olympics or maybe the police department that we could watch?
I mean, I will say, like I said,
water?
I'm gonna post a lot of pictures while I'm over there, and then I've already told the police department that I'm going to send them a lot of pictures. So we'll probably end up posting my experience while I'm over there.
So stay tuned on our Facebook page.
Stay tuned.
Further updates.
Yeah,
When did you say that was again?
It's March. Well, so I leave February 27th is when our final leg starts. So we start running on March 1st, and then we conclude on March 10th. If I remember correctly from the schedule, the polar plunge is on March 9th, and then our last day there is March 10th. So very cool. There's a lot of experiences to be had out there, and I'm training so I can take it all in when I'm out there. I don't want my cardio to be a factor in that, but so I'm training so that I can get all these experiences in when I'm there, and I hope to share my experiences with you all when I'm over there. So
that's awesome.
Hopefully I can do that. But one of the factors, or I shouldn't factors, but one of the things I'm doing while I'm over there is I'm fundraising for that polar plunge. So we'll post a link down below if you're interested in donating funds to Special Olympics. You can do that at the link down below. So
very cool.
It's going to be an awesome experience, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
Yeah. And if, like I said before, I mean, if there's anybody that wants to volunteer, we would love to have extra support here in Wisconsin and local. So if anybody wants to volunteer, they can always reach out to us. Check out our Facebook page, our social media.
Speaking of volunteering, what's going on this weekend? Do you know?
I don't know if I do.
This weekend is the state bowling tournament at Dales West and Lanes.
Oh, that's right.
So if you have any interest or you want to know what Special Olympics is about, go check that out. There'll be a opening ceremony where the torch is going to be walked through the venue. I think that's at like 8:30. So if you want to see what the torch is all about and what it symbolizes, come check that out. And then otherwise, there's a lot of really good bowlers.
If I remember correctly, all lanes are used by athletes from around the state, right?
On both sides.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And so you've participated in that in the past. What do you do there?
I mean, the main thing that we do is the award ceremony afterwards. But when we're not doing that, we're going around talking to people from all over the state, talking to family members, talking to athletes, watching some really good bowling.
Yeah.
and then doing the awards ceremony at the very end, giving awards for the bowlers. It's really cool. They're super excited. No matter what place they come in, it's really rewarding for them to have an officer hand the award to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of hugs and high fives that take place that day.
A lot. Yep. But that's great. It makes a lot of memories. So, I mean, if people want to get involved in Special Olympics, there's definitely multiple ways to do it, whether it's the events that you said earlier. Just go on the website, check it out. If you want to reach out to any of us here at the police department to get involved, let us know. We'd be happy to take more volunteers.
Yeah.
Or if you're at Dunkin' Donuts at Cops Rooftop, feel free to, all those donations go to the athletes. So if you're feeling generous, feel free to provide some extra support to athletes.
Yeah. I know they greatly appreciate it. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, it goes to paying for awards. It goes to paying for healthy athletes, for dental care for the athletes, to put on those events. I can tell you from the planning side that they are not cheap to put on those events. And so donating to Special Olympics definitely helps offset some of that cost and provide an opportunity for success for all the athletes. So again, you can go check out Special Olympics website. Just Google Special Olympics Wisconsin, and it'll give you a breakdown of the calendar and when events are going on, volunteer opportunities. Matter of fact, it might even say on there that you get to come hang out with Nick and Nate. I doubt it, but that would be cool.
We should do a fundraiser for Special Olympics where we do a wrestling match between you and I.
Ooh,
I would win. I mean, just throwing that out there. But because, I mean, I coach still, but I think I still hold the record between us when we wrestled in high school and college. Like, I out wrestle you
false
numerous times. But back to the point here. If you're looking to volunteer, feel free to reach out to us. Follow social media. Go on Special Olympics Wisconsin, and then we'll keep everybody in tune as far as getting out information and when the next events will be here locally.
Sounds great. Do you want
Whoa,
to do it?
that was weird. We were just going to talk at the same time.
And we both looked at the camera and looked at each other
Okay, so here, I'll start it.
Okay,
Ready?
Go.
Well, Nate, thanks for having me be a part of this podcast. Special Olympics has been very rewarding for me, and I know it has been for you. So thank you. I appreciate it. And thank Special Olympics as well.
Yeah. Again, Special Olympics has been a life-changing event for me. And I can't wait for more opportunities to get involved and donate to Special Olympics. And I really appreciate everybody listening to Nick and I here, because I know sometimes that people don't really want to listen to Nick.
That's probably true.
So again, thank you for listening. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Give us a like on Facebook, and stay tuned for further information on Turin.
Boom. Or
Boom.
booyah.
Booyah.